What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live, powered by BetUS. Today, we got a light schedule for the NBA. We got 5 games for picks against the spread, but one of those games is probably the best matchup that you can get right now between the number 1 team in the East and the number 1 team in the West. We're going to pick that spread line. Of course, the spread line's brought to you by BetUS. We're also going to discuss some things that you need to know before the trade deadline and get you prepared for the NBA trade deadline, which of course is on February 6th, that Thursday. We'll see if the Blazers make some monumental moves, some monumental swings or sales or whatever you want to call it, man. Hopefully they do something. And of course, later tonight we'll have the post-game show after the Blazers take on the Los Angeles Clippers. Another game that we will pick in picks against the spread, and it should be a good post-game show. It's a charity night. So you can support the charity that we'll have connected to the stream, and we'll take some more of your questions. You know, we're not doing a whole mock draft or a whole big board or anything like that. So make sure you tune in for that post-game show over on the main channel later tonight, going live at about 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. Without further ado, it's time for picks against the spread. Let's take a look at the standings as they enter today, Thursday, the 16th of January. Chat has taken the top role. Congratulations to Chat. You guys have been doing extremely well lately. And looking to follow up your picks against the spread win from last season. You guys have been on an absolute roll. Groupthink has been winning out. And man, these standings have shaken up quite a bit. I saw something that in the last 60 games, me and Eric are the bottom 2 performers. So experience is not doing us well right now. It has been a struggle for myself. It has been a struggle for Eric, who held the top spot for quite a while, but now is all the way down there in 4th place, 9 games back from Chat. Trevin is the only one keeping pace right now, and he had the second to best record on Monday. The best record went to Javon, who's been doing well lately, 5-1. Brendan, 1-5, as well as Eric, 1-5, were the worst marks of the day. We're still trying to get to 500 as a group. We're 15 games below 500, so with a really good day today, we could get above 500, which would be pretty cool. I just want to get above 500 myself down there. 4 games below 500 does not feel too good. Also had a couple pushes for double downs, including Trevin, who's 16-6 on double downs for the year. That's a phenomenal mark. Let's jump into game number 1. We got the Detroit Pistons hosting the Indiana Pacers. And the Pacers are 2-point road favorites. Both of these teams have been playing very well as of late. Out for the Pacers, of course, are 2 guys that are out for the season. Those are James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson. And then out for the Pistons is Jaden Ivey, who will be out for a while, but that is the only player on their injury report. Chat, there is your chat poll. And once again, if you're new to the second channel, if you're new to Blazers Uprise Live, we start the stream off, we pick the day's games, the spread line's brought to you by BetUS, and then we jump into the topic. If you're watching this back after the fact, feel free to fast forward or feel free to hang out and see how we do with our picks. I'm going to go with the Indiana Pacers. They're playing really well, looking more like the Eastern Conference finalists that they were last season. So I'm going to go with them. And then if we have a mod that can help me out, I don't even have to ask anymore. Shout out to Arrow for posting everybody's picks in the live chat. We got Pistons for Connor, Pistons for Eric. We got Pistons for Jackson. We got Pistons for Brendan and Steven. We got Pacers for Javon, Zach 503. We got Pacers for Arrow. Trevin is going Pacers. And Crushables is rolling with the Detroit Pistons. Chat is also rolling with the Pistons. Man, what a year makes. Remember, how bad their losing streak was last year. Now look at us consistently picking the Pistons. It's a 7v6, basically a split vote in favor of the Detroit Pistons. And in game number 2, we have the Washington Wizards at 6-32 hosting the 19-20 Phoenix Suns. Phoenix is an 11.5-point road favorite. Out for the Suns is Yusuf Nurkic due to illness/DNP coach's decision. They have completely removed him from their lineup as they look to trade him. And then also out for the Suns is Bradley Beal. And then there are 3 players out for the Wizards. Those are Sadiq Bey, Marvin Bagley III, and Malcolm Brogdon. Also, if you want to double down on one of these games, make sure you do it ahead of time, as these games are tipping off at 4:10 p.m. Pacific time in 3 minutes. All right, Steven is the Wizards. Good correction there. All right, Zach, Wizards. I'm going to go Wizards. Home team, 11.5-point favorite. Yeah, give me the Wizards. Eric is going with the Suns. He has completely abandoned his early season strategy that got him the lead in picks against the spread. Maybe it also lost him the lead. I'm not sure when he switched that up. But we got Arrow going Suns. We got Crushables going Suns. We got Brendan going Suns. Wizards Timberwolves was the game that pushed on Monday. Arrow says he wants to switch. Okay, Arrow, you can be the Wizards. That's fine. All right. We got Javon going Wizards, and he says it's going to be his double down. We got Connor Suns, Jackson Suns. Trevin is going with the Wizards. And 503 is going with the Suns. As I've said before, 503 loves him a favorite. Chat is going with the Wizards, 83% of the vote. Man, we are evolving lately. We are going for the underdog a little bit more, which, you know, we are definitely we show a lot of favoritism towards the favorite in years past. But as of late, man, this is the type of poll that we've been going with the underdog in. You know, a year ago, I feel like this poll is 10-3 in favor of the Suns. But no, we got a 7v6, another split vote, this time in favor of the Washington Wizards. So, man, the records are going to be interesting to look at after today with 2 split votes to start things off. Game number 3, this is the game of the day. It's OKC hosting Cleveland. This game is on national television, TNT, True TV, and Max. OKC is a 2-point favorite against the Cavs, who beat them in their last matchup. The 2 top teams in the league. This is going to be a very fun one to pick. Chat, there is your poll. Injuries for this game: out for the Cavs, Imani Bates; out for the Thunder, Adam Flagler, Nikola Topic, AJ Mitchell, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Chet Holmgren. The Hartenstein injury hurts, man. The Hartenstein injury hurts, but yeah, 34-5 versus 33-6. So if the Thunder win, these 2 teams will have identical records. I'm just going to go with the home team in this one. I'm going to go with the Thunder. Crushables is going with the Thunder. We got Eric going with the Cavs. Me and Eric are disagreeing on everything today. We'll see how that goes. Maybe I can catch him finally. Arrow going with the Cavs. We got Steven Cavs. We got Zach going Cleveland. It's going to be his double down. This game starts at 4:30, so we don't have to double down ahead of time. 503 is going Cavs. Brendan, Cavs. Javon, Cavs. Wow, a lot of love for the Cleveland Cavaliers today. I wonder if the first matchup is why, or I wonder if it's the Hartenstein injury. We got Connor and Jackson going Cavs as well. Right now, it's only me and Crushables on the Thunder, because Trevin is also going Cavs, and Chat is going Cavs. 55% of the vote. I am very surprised by this. I thought this vote was going to be competitive, but we got an 11v2 in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Crushables, and myself on the Thunder. All right, game number 4. We got your Portland Trailblazers hosting the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Clippers fresh off their beatdown of the Brooklyn Nets last night. A game where they led by more than 60 points. The Clippers are 7-point road favorites in Portland. Injuries for this game. Out for the Clippers, PJ Tucker and Kawhi Leonard. Questionable is Terrence Mann. Out for the Blazers is Donovan Clingan, Matisse Thybulle, and Jeremy Grant. And then doubtful is Robert Williams III and Denny Avdia. This is a hard game to pick with Kawhi resting. This just feels like the type of game where the Blazers lose by 6, huh? Jackson is Clippers. Javon is Blazers. Trevin is Clippers. I'm going to have to guess who everyone else is. Because Arrow said everyone else is Clippers. All right. Javon, Blazers saw that. All right. Jackson, Trevin. Crushes Trailblazers. Means Eric's Clippers. Means Zach is Clippers. It means 503 and Steven are Clippers. It means Brendan is Clippers. Alright, Connor will be picking in chat. He's going Blazers. Zach says Portland. Okay, Zach's Portland. I didn't know if you were included in the everyone else. Arrows, Clippers. Eric, Clippers. Is everything on the screen right, Arrow? Just let me know. I'm going to go with the Clippers. Chat is going to go with the Clippers, 70% of the poll. And then Arrow, correct me if anything up here looks off to you. And then we'll head into the last game of the day. All right. Everything's correct here. We got a 9v4 in favor of the LA Clippers. Game number 5, final game of the day. You got the Sacramento Kings, who are back up to 500, hosting the Houston Rockets. Fresh off 2 wins against the Memphis Grizzlies in the past week. The Kings, though, 4.5-point home favorites. Out for the Rockets, Jabari Smith Jr. and Fred VanVleet, and then questionable is Tari Eason. And the Kings are healthy. Only one player on their injury report. It's Malik Monk, but he is probable. So the Kings looking at probably a healthy lineup tonight. I'm going to go with the Rockets. Javon is going Kings. Eric is Rockets. Arrow is Rockets. Crushables is Kings. 503 is Rockets. Brendan is Rockets. Jackson is Kings. We got Steven Kings for his double down. Connor's going with Houston. All right, we need Trevin. We need Zach. And chat. Get your votes in the chat poll. We got 5 votes. We got 40 people watching. Vote on this game. Vote on the spread line. Do you think the Kings win by 4.5 points or more? Right now, 60% say no. They're going with the Rockets. Zach is Kings. And Trevin is Rockets. I did not see that. All right. Chat, Rockets, 75% of the poll. So that makes this an 8v5 in favor of the Houston Rockets. Time for double downs. We already got some double downs on the screen here. We got 3 people on the Clippers so far. Those are Arrow, Brendan, and Eric. Crushables on the Suns. Stevens on the Kings. 503's on the Cavs. I'm going to double down on the Houston Rockets. chat's double down was the Washington Wizards. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? I know we had a couple double downs on the earlier games as well. Eric is Clippers. I already got the people that posted in chat, Arrow, if you can see on the screen. Connor's double down was the Cavs. I just did the scene ahead of time because I have to put in all the specific different logos. So I was prepared today. Look at my preparation. Alrighty. Does Arrow have the stream muted? Appreciate the help, though. Appreciate the help. Arrow spam in chat. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you. Have these in from the jump. All right. So we need Zach. We need Trevin went Cavs. So we need Zach and Javon. I'm only half listening. At least you're halfway there. At least you're half listening. All right, Zach is Cavs. We got a lot of Cavs love here, man. Really need the Thunder to come through to wreck everyone and give me a dub. Javon went Wizards. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember, though, Javon. You have to remind me. All right, so we got 3 on the Clippers. Eric, Arrow, Brendan. We got 5 on the Cavs. Zach, Jackson, Trevin, Connor, 503. We got 2 on the Wizards. That's Javon and Chad. And then we got myself on the Rockets. We got Crushables on the Suns and Steven on the Kings. So it's me versus Steven. We'll see how that goes. And that concludes Picks Against the Spread, powered by BetUS. Thank you for participating. You can get in on these spread lines on BetUS. Promo code YouTube150 gives you a 150% deposit bonus and 125% bonuses after that, up to $2,000. Now let's talk about the NBA trade deadline, which is 3 weeks from today. This is the perfect time to kind of prepare you a little bit for it. Okay, and some of this is preparing you for the discussions that are going to come in the next 3 weeks. All right, we're going to touch upon a couple CBA things, and we're also going to touch upon just how you should think about this trade deadline for the Portland Trailblazers, all right? So, the Blazers have 5 players that they will probably take offers for in terms of trading them, all right? And you can separate those players into different tiers, all right? That's what I'm going to do. I have not thought about these tiers. This is on the spot, all right? But the top tier in terms of guys needing to go, I think, is DeAndre Ayton. Just flat out simple. Gotta go. Now, he does expire after next season, but with the lack of effort he's shown lately, that massive contract, I said on the last postgame show, I don't care if you got to play Ryan Rupert at center. What DeAndre Ayton is doing right now is not good for a locker room. It's not good for fans to watch. It kind of pisses me off. And it's not good for a rebuild, man. It's just not good. Just not good. So you got to get rid of him, but he doesn't have much value. Or any value. He might have negative value. So do you have to attach an asset to him? So the top tier is got to get rid of him, but can you? That's the DeAndre Ayton tier. All right. The next tier is the Jeremy Grant tier. All right. You don't have to get rid of him as much as you have to get rid of DeAndre Ayton. Also, he probably isn't as bad of a contract as DeAndre Ayton, but can you get anything back for Jeremy Grant at this point? I don't know. He's still out with a face contusion that is supposedly a concussion, not a contusion, but they keep calling it a face contusion. It's a concussion. The Jeremy Grant tier is, you don't got, I don't know, this is really long tier names, all right? But you don't got to get rid of him as bad as Ayton. And his contract probably isn't as bad as Ayton. But what is his value? I don't know. All right. There is a legitimate chance to me that Jeremy Grant does not have positive value. There's a legitimate chance that DeAndre Ayton has negative value. I think if you combine those two guys, you hope that it's a net zero in terms of the value you get back. All right. Then you have the tier of vets on smaller contracts that should be tradable. All right, those two guys are Matisse Thybulle and Robert Williams III. Robert Williams III has more trade value than Matisse Thybulle. There is a report on Twitter saying second-round picks for Robert Williams. I think if you're the Blazers, you're hoping out for a bad first or a solid young prospect. I think if Robert Williams does get traded, it's more likely it's for a young prospect that the Blazers have some faith in. But is the Blazers having faith in a young prospect a good thing? I don't know. Is that how you end up with another Chris Murray or Jabari Walker? I don't know. But Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle Thybulle's making like $11 million a year. Robert Williams is making $12 million and some change. Much easier to trade those contracts than Jeremy Grant or DeAndre Ayton. And then you have the final tier, and this is a guy who could fit the youth movement, has been playing great basketball lately. You don't have to trade him right now. The only reason to trade him right now is because of Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe being your young guards of the future and maybe wanting to clear a runway for him. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense to sell him right now. That, of course, is Anthony Simons. All right. So the 5 players the Blazers could look at trading this trade deadline are Anthony Simons, Robert Williams, Matisse Thybulle, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. Now, of course, they could always throw in a Jabari Walker, Duop Reith, Delano Banton. Those guys just are end-of-the-roster guys. They're not really important, and they're on minimum contracts. So they just are kind of irrelevant. No offense to them. They're in the NBA. Congratulations. You're living the dream, all right? But on an NBA level, in terms of this trade deadline, like those guys just do not matter for the Blazers. All right? So what could the Blazers look back? What could the Blazers look for in return for these players, okay? There's 3 different things that the Blazers should be valuing for these players, okay? The first thing is draft capital, all right? And draft capital, of course, can be split down into first-round picks and second-round picks, but you can also look at first-round pick swaps, maybe. And then, of course, you have protections that come on those, so you know, if a pick is top 10 protected, then it doesn't actually get traded. So if the Blazers traded Robert Williams III for a top 10 protected pick from a team in 2027, and that year that team has a top 10 pick, it stays with that team. If it's not top 10, then it would go to the Blazers. Right now, the Blazers currently owe their 2025 first-round pick to Chicago, but it's lottery protected, and they traded that pick 3 years ago, but it's always been in the lottery. That's why the Blazers still owe it to Chicago. All right, so protections can get a little bit confusing, but no, draft capital is not created equal. If the Blazers do trade a veteran for a first-round pick, you got to look at what year is it, what team is it, and then what protections are on it, right? Hypothetically, let's just say you got an unprotected pick this season. If it was OKC's first-round pick, it would not matter that it's unprotected because that pick is guaranteed to be in the late 20s. It's guaranteed to be in the late 20s. It's not going to be in the lottery, so it doesn't even matter that it's not an unprotected pick. But if, hypothetically, you got the Utah Jazz's first-round pick, and it was unprotected, it would matter a ton that it's unprotected because they have a good chance of moving up into the top 4. Now, the Blazers would never get a pick that good unprotected for any of their vets, but it's just to illustrate the point, right? The protections do matter. The team matters, right? And what year it is matters, right? Like, if you get a first-round pick this year from a really good team, you know that they're going to be a really good team this year. You know that that pick is going to be in the late 20s. But if it's in 2030, who knows what could happen by 2030? That's why the Blazers valued the Bucks' 2029 first-round pick they got back for Damian Lillard. Because while the Bucks are good right now, they could suck by then. And that pick is unprotected. That might be the first overall pick, all right? So draft capital is not created equal. It's not as simple as like, oh yeah, just get back 3 first-round picks. There could be trades where 2 first-round picks are better than 3 first-round picks because they're much more likely to be higher in the draft. All right? So draft capital not created equal. So that's the first thing the Blazers will be looking for their veterans, draft capital. The second thing, young players that could be a part of their rebuild. An example of some guys. Cam Whitmore, Jarris Walker, those types of players are young enough, have upside, right? Cam Whitmore is like 20, 21 years old. Jarris Walker, 21, 22 years old, somewhere in there. Cam Whitmore had a pretty dang good rookie season and has barely been able to play this season on one of the deepest teams in the league, the Houston Rockets. Meanwhile, Jarris Walker is playing on another deep team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year and can't crack their rotation. So both guys kind of buried on winning teams that could use a situation like Portland's, which would finally give them the chance to play regular NBA minutes and potentially break out, right? We've seen that story before. Just to throw it way back, the Blazers with Jermaine O'Neal barely played him, traded him to the Indiana Pacers. He got playing time, turned into an all-star big man. So those are the types of players that you could potentially get for veterans because they're not playing, they're not serving a purpose on a winning team, and a winning team is the type of team that would look at a Jeremy Grant or Robert Williams III. Right, so Jarris Walker, Cam Whitmore are two names that I really like to fit into that mold. Of course, you can go for lesser prospects that still maybe you have some faith in, right? Nobody thought much of Toumani Camara when the Blazers got him in the Damian Lillard trade, and he's the only saving grace for the Suns aspect of that trade because DeAndre Ayton is a travesty right now. So draft capital, young players. The third thing that matters is flexibility going forward. Cap flexibility going forward, okay? And this is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this trade deadline on this live stream and prepare you, all right? Because I'm getting to the point where, like, I'm going to start tossing out trade ideas on Twitter. We talked about trade ideas in a couple post-game shows. Went through a bunch of trade ideas 2 post-game shows ago. And the Blazers owe a lot of money next season to DeAndre Ayton, Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant. Okay? If I do the math off the top of my head, it's like $110, $115 million, maybe upwards of $120 million just to those 5 guys. Okay? That's a lot of money in a rebuild. All right? However, if the Blazers trade Jeremy Grant's $30 million contract and get back all expiring contracts, those expiring contracts are done after this season, so starting in this offseason, that's money that the Blazers wouldn't know. So instead of owing Jeremy Grant $30 million, they basically take that off their books if they trade it for expiring contracts right now. Okay? So the Blazers should absolutely value expiring contracts back for their veterans. The point of getting an expiring contract is not to bring in that player. And this is a misconception that drives Eric and I crazy every time we discuss trades. Okay? Hypothetically, if the Blazers could trade DeAndre Ayton to the Chicago Bulls for Lonzo Ball's expiring contract, you absolutely do it because DeAndre Ayton's probably a negative contract, right? And, you know, the hope with that type of trade would be the Bulls trade Vucevic somewhere and want a center to replace him, right? But just don't even think about it from the Bulls' perspective right now. This is an illustrative point, okay? The Blazers would not be trading DeAndre Ayton for Lonzo Ball. Yes, I know that's what the trade is and what the trade would say. That's not the reason why they're trading DeAndre Ayton. They're not trading DeAndre Ayton in that trade to get Lonzo Ball. But if that trade happens, there's going to be a bunch of people on Twitter, a bunch of Blazer fans saying, why in the world did we trade DeAndre Ayton for a guard who's always hurt when we have 3 guards already? But that is looking at it totally backwards. Totally backwards. Lonzo Ball's money comes off the books in the offseason. The Blazers could buy him out right after trading for him, let him go play for a team of his choice, and the dead money that would be on the books would just be for the rest of the season. It's not going to stop the Blazers from doing anything. Free agency isn't in the middle of the season. The draft isn't in the middle of the season. It's all in the offseason. At that point, that money's off the books because it's an expiring contract. You do not trade for expiring contracts and value them as expiring contracts for the player. You value them because it's money that comes off your books. So in effect, you trade DeAndre Ayton for Lonzo Ball, you're basically getting DeAndre Ayton's money off the books this summer. All right? Same thing with Jeremy Grant, for any other expiring contracts. Now, this talk is actually motivated by a tweet that I had recently with a lot of Blazer fans that liked my trade. A lot of them hated it. There was I kind of want to read this off because I think it's a good thing to read off because we get a lot of responses like this. There are so many responses to this tweet, though. And a lot of the trade ideas, all right, a lot of them are just concepts. All right, here we go. So somebody told me it was a trade where the Blazers basically get back all expiring contracts, Cam Whitmore, and their 2025 first-round pick back from Chicago for a 2029 first-round pick. That's the worst of three teams. Ayton, Grant, Robert Williams, and a couple of seconds. All right? And the point of this trade was you get all that money off the books. Cam Whitmore is the only contract that's not expiring. So the Blazers, this upcoming offseason, would save approximately $75 million on the cap and gain that flexibility. And then they swap out a first in a couple of seconds for their own first back. We're going to talk about that in a second because that is an asset that the Blazers could use and should potentially try and get back, especially in a trade like I tweeted where Ayton's going to the Bulls, and that's a way of basically cap dumping him while still making it make sense. All right. So this response that I got said it's a horrible trade, and the reason that this guy had said we're getting all expiring contracts is one of the reasons for it being a horrible trade. And he went on to say, we're not re-signing any of them and only going to have Whitmore from this trade. It's looking at it completely backwards. Completely backwards. Okay? To reiterate, we're talking about cap flexibility. This is the third thing the Blazers should be looking for in a trade. All right? Now, why should the Blazers look for cap flexibility? Well, when Jeremy Grant is playing like trash and is on a big contract, when DeAndre Ayton is definitely not worth his contract, teams are not just going to trade a bunch of first-round picks for these guys. Ayton's not going to fetch a first. Jeremy Grant, the hope for me right now is he fetches a single first, and I don't even care if it's bad. Like, he's been brutal this year. He's been brutal, okay? If you can get back a first-round pick for Jeremy Grant, that is a win. Assuming you can't, assuming a team isn't just going to directly trade you a first-round pick or a really good young player for either DeAndre Ayton or Jeremy Grant, there is a path to still getting first-round picks for those guys. But it is a two-step path. It's not just where you're going to get it in one single trade for them. All right? The roundabout way, the two-step plan to get first-round picks back for a DeAndre Ayton or a Jeremy Grant is you trade them for expiring contracts. You trade them for expiring contracts. Because if you can trade both those guys for expiring contracts, maybe Matisse Thybulle as well, etc., and clear up some cap space for this upcoming offseason due to the expiring contracts you get back for them, rebuilding teams, many rebuilding teams have gone into a mode, and it's called asset accumulation mode. And basically, it's where they have this flexibility. They have a really young roster with players on cheap contracts because they're young. So they have this cap space. And yeah, they suck, so they're not using the cap space to sign any free agents. What they're using the cap space for is to take on salaries that other teams don't want. And other teams oftentimes are willing to attach draft capital, or young players even, to these contracts they don't want on their books in order to get rid of them. And if you have cap space to absorb the salary that a team doesn't want, you don't have to send a contract back. You don't have to match salary. If you're over the salary cap, you have to send out a similar amount of salary back to the team that you're trading with. So when a team is looking to cut salary, they immediately look for teams with cap space that don't have to send them salary back. That's how they can save the most money. That's how they can shed the most salary, and that's how they can get below. That's how they can get cap space if they want it. That's how they can get below the first apron, second apron, which unlocks different moves that they can do, right? Sometimes they just don't want to be in the luxury tax because they don't want to pay that, right? And sometimes they're making a trade with another team. Maybe it's a sign and trade. There's different scenarios there where they have to send out salary to make that work, but the team they're trading with doesn't want that salary, so then you find a third team to take on that salary. The point is, if the Blazers can get flexibility through expiring contracts that they trade Ayton and Grant for, they can use that flexibility to then absorb salary in the offseason with first-round picks attached. All right? That is the best case scenario for maximizing the value of Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton. If you could trade DeAndre Ayton for Lonzo Ball, hypothetically, even if you have to attach a couple seconds, Lonzo Ball comes off the books, and then you use that $30 million you saved to take on a contract with a first-round pick. Cool. You swap DeAndre Ayton's awful salary for another bad salary, but a guy that probably doesn't have to start in front of your young center, Donovan Clingan. Maybe somebody you can bring off the bench or somebody that you don't even have to play because they're not DeAndre Ayton. So you swap DA and his massive salary out for another bad salary that's probably a little bit less, and you get a first-round pick for that. That's a win at the end of the day. That is a win. You clear the runway for Donovan Clingan. You get rid of the problem that DeAndre Ayton has been, and you get your first-round pick. All right? The problem is, too many people look at trades in a vacuum where it's like, all right, this is what we traded Ayton for. A guy that we're not going to keep. We got nothing for him. But the resulting flexibility is what you can use to then accumulate assets. Right? So to recap, the three things the Blazers should be looking for at this deadline is draft capital, young players, flexibility. The flexibility down the line can help them get more draft capital and young players. And draft capital and young players is what you want to get in a rebuild. And that's what the Blazers are in, of course. So that is the mindset behind this trade deadline. And hopefully you were already there, but if you didn't understand the point of trading for expiring contracts or some of the logic behind that, hopefully you do now. And when you see a trade go down at trade deadline day, you can think about it in terms of not just what did the Blazers get back, but does this help the Blazers do things moving forward? Because that is a big factor of it. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is salary matching, okay? And this kind of plays a part in why it's good for the Blazers to get flexibility and cap space this offseason. There is a new CBA in place that makes it harder to trade for players if you have a high payroll, okay? Before there used to be one apron. Now there's two aprons. And what aprons are basically salary limits that once you go past that, it restricts the types of moves you can make. Okay? So for example, I'm not going to run through all the salary matching trade rules, but if a team stays below the first apron and they're trading out, let's just say $30 million, they can take back 125% of that. Okay? Let's say they trade out $32 million. They can take back $40 million. They can take back 125% of that. Okay? They can, combine two players making $16 million to add up to $32 million, which is called aggregating, and they can take back a player making $40 million because it matches. It's within 125%. If a team is past the first apron, which is a bit less than the second apron. The second apron is $10 million more than the first apron, so there's a range in there. If a team is past the first apron, they can only take back 100% of what they're sending out in any scenario. No matter how much they're sending out, they can't take back any more than what they're sending out. So if they're sending out that $32 million, they can't take back the player making $40 million because their payroll's too high and they're past the first apron. Okay, they can only take back $32 million. All right? They can still combine, they can still aggregate the two players making $16 million to trade for a player making $32 million, but they can't bring in more than what they're bringing back. If you're past the second apron, you still can't bring back more than you're trading out, but you also can't add players together and aggregate salaries. And this is the situation the Phoenix Suns are in, by the way, right? So if you want to trade for a player making $32 million and you have two players you want to trade making $16 million and they add up to that $32 million, It doesn't work if you're past the second apron. You're not allowed to add those players' salaries together. Basically, in that situation, you would only be able to take back a player making $16 million or less because, the player you're trading out, if they're making $16 million, you got to take back salary that's less than that because you can't combine that salary to anything else. Okay? Now, these restrictions are more punitive is the proper word, more punitive than the older CBA. Okay? And that's what me and Eric mean when we talk about how the new CBA is going to be restricted for teams at the deadline, and this is why it'd be good to have flexibility. Because if a team wants to trade for somebody making $40 million and they have the $32 million of salary they're willing to trade out for them, but they're $3 million, $4 million, $5 million past the first apron, then that team might be looking to shed a contract so they can make that trade work. Right? It's not just for other teams to get cap space, but there's going to be teams that are going to want to make moves that have salary that they need to get rid of so they can get below these aprons to make possible moves work. That is why I think it's important for rebuilding teams to have cap space, to have flexibility with this new CBA so they can get rewarded with assets, with draft picks, with young players for helping these teams move around salary so that they can make moves to try and contend when they're in that mode. All right? Very, very important stuff there. Also, luxury tax payments and punishments if you're above the second apron for too long are even more harsh than they were before. Teams are not going to want to remain above the second apron for multiple years. It freezes draft picks and sends them to the end of the first round and stuff like that. So even if it's not to make a move, teams are just going to look to duck those thresholds anyway and look to offload salary anyway. Okay? So this is why flexibility is a big thing that matters for the Portland Trail Blazers and any NBA team leading up to the deadline. All right. So these are all things to monitor. These are all things to know when we talk about trades leading up to the deadline. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about anything I just covered? I'll answer it for a few minutes, and then we'll wrap up the stream. We'll be live again later tonight, of course. Hopefully, I think I did a pretty good job of explaining that stuff. It's kind of complicated, but I always try and... I think there's two things to being a creator that tries to talk about the CBA, okay? Or a podcaster or whatever you want to call me, okay? One, the first thing is obviously just knowing the CBA. The second thing is being able to explain it in a way that makes sense to somebody that might not know the CBA as well. The second part is a skill that I try to work at. So hopefully I articulated that in a way that makes sense. If not, I'm more than happy to answer questions for the final 5 minutes of this stream. Aeromancer asks, what are the rules for percentage increases to the salary matching thresholds based on percentages of cap versus 2023? Brother, I don't know the formula, so sorry, but that's a good question for Google. What are the... I don't even really understand your question. You're talking about... They're not... You're talking about tax aprons. Or you're talking about the aprons, right? Yeah. Don't troll me. You got chill. You got chill. E-Ray says, Keon Johnson did play well against us. Happy for him. Oh, you mean like the 7.5 million threshold? Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. That's too complicated. I don't know what the rules are for increasing that. But yeah. It's not stuff that people have to know if they want to be well versed in the CBA. There's certain things that I don't know off the top of my head because it's complicated, but on a scale of 1 to hopeful, how likely is it that Cronin pulls off a great trade? One, maybe two. But yeah, we're more than happy to answer trade deadline questions about, like, Greg Hughes asks, anybody interested in Ant? I'm not sure off the top of my head. Me and Eric can spend more time later tonight going through maybe some potential destinations for him. But, like, it's not like we have heard any legitimate rumors regarding him, so it'd just be speculation. You know, like, I've always thought Orlando is a good fit for him, but who knows if they want Ant at all. But yeah, you know, just more so questions about the CBA stuff I talked about, or about the first round picks, like the assets the Blazers are looking for. If you guys have any questions regarding that stuff, I'll answer them. Otherwise, other questions we can answer later tonight on the postgame show going live at about 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. By the way, if you don't know our main channel, Blazers Uprise without the podcast, that's where we do our post-game live streams. This channel, we do live streams twice a week, Monday and Thursday. Sam Dooley, you're welcome. It's good to see you, Sam. Always good to see you, man. By the way, is my internet okay today? Because I had to replace my modem. The last one accidentally got unplugged, and then I tried to reset it a bunch of times, tried to run diagnostics, and it was still had latency issues. Desmond, I don't know why we'd want Jonas Valanciunas. But yeah, hopefully the internet was good today, because I just replaced that. We don't want Ayton. Yeah, but I mean, if you're trading Ayton in that trade, you're not trading him to Washington. You're trading him to Brooklyn. Cam Johnson is the bigger contract there. So you're trading him to match Cam Johnson. I don't know why you'd go out of the way then to tack on a Jonas Valanciunas trade for it. Like, you want to start clinging next year and have a backup behind him. Valanciunas is a starter still, so. Jakob, what's up, man? What are your thoughts on what the Blazers are right now? Are you happy with the way we are playing at the moment with the future in mind? I mean, I'm happy with the flash of Scoot showing and Sharp showing, and I'm happy that Ant's playing better. Outside of that, and Denny's been really good. So, those four guys I'm really happy with, and then Klingon is a rookie, so he's going to be a work in progress. I'm not, I've been happy with him, overall. I just think he's been limited after that knee injury, and now he has an ankle injury, so hopefully he can get healthy. But outside of that, nothing else really matters to me. Desmond says Kuzma to Brooklyn, Ayton to Wizards. Okay, so Kuzma to Brooklyn, Cam Johnson to Portland, Valanciunas to Portland, Ayton to the Wizards. I mean, and then the Portland sends 2 picks to the Wizards, because I think they can get a pick for Kuzma and a pick for Valanciunas, and then also might want a pick for taking on Ayton, so both first-round picks probably have to go there. Why would the Nets swap out Cam Johnson for Kyle Kuzma straight up? Cam Johnson's a better player right now, having a better season, and he's younger, so he fits Brooklyn's timeline better. I don't know why Brooklyn would swap out Cam Johnson for Kuzma. And I don't think seconds matter enough for players of those magnitude. The other thing to know before the trade deadline, all right, and talking trade ideas, if you're talking about, good starting caliber players and better, at that point, second-round picks don't really matter. Eric, exactly. But, yeah, because they're not relevant enough for as good as the players are. If you're talking about a player like a GP 2 weeks, sure. But even he, after that debacle, went for 5 second-round picks. That it kind of shows you that, players better than that, yeah, second-round picks, they don't matter. Teams can always trade into the second round. Teams can always trade cash for second-round picks. The Blazers last year traded the 40th pick for cash. Because I do see people when they try and talk trades, it'll be like Kuzma for Cam Johnson. Oh, why would Brooklyn trade Cam Johnson for Kuzma? Oh, well, just give him some second-round picks. No, that's not... It's not relevant enough. One unprotected in Kuz. I mean, unprotected from who? Portland? Then Washington's not getting enough. And I don't know why Portland would trade an unprotected pick for Cam Johnson and Valanciunas. What's the point? Doesn't fit the timeline. You got Avdia, you got Kamara starting. You don't really like Cam Johnson could fill a shooting role, but like if you're gonna go out and get that type of player, just get somebody that's not quite as good as Cam Johnson, but can still shoot well. You know, your Sam Hauser type if you want to fill that shooter role. Like you might draft a forward too. That's also a reason why it's like the Blazers shouldn't be looking to get good veterans right now. Who knows who you're gonna draft? What if you get lucky? What if you get Cooper Flagg? And then it's like, all right, you got Cooper Flagg, you got Avdia, you got Kamara. That's your 3 forwards of the future. Like, what? Cam Johnson is good, but like, all right, why do you have him in there too? You know? So, Denny is not a point guard, man. He's not a point guard. And you also have 2 other point guards, right? You got Simons and you got Scoot right now. So, you don't got enough there either then if that's what you try and do. So, you're creating log jams for no reason when the team's not going to win. Denny is not a point guard. He's better as a secondary creator, like point forward, okay? You know, somebody that can bring the ball up occasionally, but then can play off the ball as well. You don't need him initiating everything. The only point of calling Denny Avdia a point guard and like having him bring the ball up all the time is if you like don't play Scoot with him. Because here's the thing, if Avdia's a point guard and you play Scoot with him, then Scoot's the shooting guard then. So then, if Sharp's playing with him, he's the small forward. Then he's a forward. Like, you're just moving things around without actually changing anything. So, Eric, I'm having this conversation because it illustrates a point with positions. But also, this is what I'd be telling you on our post games. So, I guess it's, roles are reversed here. But yeah, Avdia, people have said he's a point guard. I don't think he's a point guard. And also, it's like, all right, so if you play him next to Scoot, next to Sharp, yes, he might be the point guard on some possessions, but it's like one of those guys is the small forward. So, here's the problem, Desmond. Here's the problem. If Ant's the shooting guard, Tumani's the small forward, Cam's the power forward, and then you got Avdia as a point guard, and you think he's only a point guard. Not only do you not have enough minutes for Scoot, but you also don't have enough minutes for Sharp. You don't have enough minutes for either guy because Ant's you already have too much at point guard, so Ant's going to be a full-time shooting guard. Where do Sharp's minutes come? You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. Like, does not work. Two units is not enough. You're going to play Ant 24 minutes a game, Scoot 24 minutes a game, Avdia 24 minutes a game, Sharp 24 minutes a game. That's not enough minutes. Tori, have you been taking the no-look shots? Haven't seen you doing in a while. I'll end the stream with that, actually. Well, I think that's how my modem got unplugged, so I don't know if I want to do a no-looker, but I'll look. I don't know. I'll risk it. I will risk it, all right? Let's see. Close. We were close on that one, but there. Gotta switch to end the stream. Let's go, man. Let's go. Anyway, look forward to the postgame show tonight. We'll touch base with Eric. And that should be fun. Appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button on the way out of here. If you're not subscribed to the second channel, you need to. We stream twice a week. And then check out the postgame show tonight. We stream after every Blazer game. Anyway, we are out of here. It's just me. What am I talking about? I'm out of here. Have a good rest of your Thursday night. And hopefully we can catch you tonight on that post-game show. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.